On a journey to one of the most important prehistoric sites ever discovered.
Scientists and explorers have been able to paint a clear picture of this lost world, unseen for more than 10,000 years.
High in the Sierra de El Astillero Mountains of central Mexico, perched 9,000 feet above sea level, where the wind cuts sharp and silence clings to stone, lies a cave long ignored by history. For generations, it was nothing more than a hollow scar in the rock, barren, cold, and forgotten. But in 2012, a small team of scientists entered its depths on a routine mission to study ancient pollen. What they uncovered instead would unravel one of the most enduring stories ever told about the first humans in the Americas. The discovery wasn't just older than expected, it was impossibly old. And it would send shockwaves through archaeology, rewriting the timeline of when, how, and perhaps even who first walked this land. The cave above the clouds. Reaching Chiquihuite Cave is no simple feat. Nestled high above the valley floor, the cave sits at an altitude where the oxygen thins, temperatures plunge, and the terrain punishes every step. To get there, researchers must wind their way through cartel-controlled territory, escorted by armored vehicles and federal police. Each expedition begins before sunrise, not for comfort, but for survival. Cloaked in darkness to avoid being seen by eyes that watch the mountains for intruders. For Dr. Ciprian Ardelean, an archaeologist from the Autonomous University of Zacatecas, this perilous journey would become routine over the next decade. In 2012, Ardelean and his team weren't looking for lost civilizations. They were after pollen, ancient plant particles trapped in sediment. Remnants of Ice Age ecosystems long vanished from modern Mexico. The cave's untouched environment made it a perfect candidate for environmental sampling. But as they began clearing layers of earth from the cave's sloping floor, the mission shifted. Buried beneath centuries of dust and debris were objects unmistakably shaped by human hands. Stone blades, flakes, and scrapers, almost 2,000 in total. This discovery posed an immediate and unsettling question. What were these tools doing here, thousands of feet above sea level, in a cave never believed to be inhabited by early humans? And more critically, how old were they? The deeper they dug, the older the story became. And what started as a routine field study would soon challenge the most fundamental beliefs about how the Americas were first settled. Breaking the timeline. For most of the 20th century, the story of how humans arrived in the Americas seemed settled. The dominant theory held that around 13,000 years ago, a small population crossed the Bering Land Bridge from Siberia into Alaska, traveling southward as retreating glaciers opened a narrow corridor. Known as the Clovis 1 cent model, this narrative was reinforced by the discovery of distinctive spear points near Clovis, New Mexico, found alongside the bones of extinct Ice Age animals. It was clean, linear, and widely accepted. Humans came late, moved quickly, and spread rapidly. But from the moment Chiquihuite's tools were dated, that tidy timeline began to unravel. Radiocarbon testing of charcoal and bone fragments, along with optically stimulated luminescence, OSL, dating of sediment layers, placed the earliest artifacts between 25,000 and 32,000 years ago. This wasn't a small adjustment to the margins of prehistory. It was a rupture. If the dating held, it meant humans were not only in the Americas far earlier than previously believed, they were there during the last glacial maximum, one of the harshest climatic periods in human history. At that time, vast ice sheets blanketed much of North America. Temperatures plummeted, ecosystems collapsed, and migration routes were sealed off beneath walls of ice stretching thousands of miles. According to the established models, humans shouldn't have been able to reach the continent, let alone survive in its mountainous interior. Yet the artifacts from Chiquihuite Cave tell a different story, one of resilience, adaptation, and survival in conditions few modern humans could endure. This discovery didn't just challenge a single hypothesis. It threatened to overturn the very foundations of American prehistory. And with each carefully dated layer of sediment, the evidence grew harder to dismiss. Stone whispers and missing bones. As the excavation continued, what emerged from beneath Chiquihuite's gravel-strewn floor was a collection of nearly 2,000 stone tools. blades, scrapers, and sharp flakes crafted with deliberate technique. The majority were made from greenish and blackish varieties of limestone not naturally found inside the cave. This suggested something crucial. These materials had been brought in from outside, selected intentionally, and shaped with a level of craftsmanship far beyond random breakage. Even more compelling was the consistency of the debris, known as lithic reduction flakes, indicating a controlled manufacturing process that required foresight, planning, and dexterity. But these tools weren't merely curiosities. They were embedded in sediment layers sealed beneath protective mud and gravel, a kind of accidental time capsule. Radiocarbon analysis of associated bone and charcoal dated the oldest layer to as early as 32,000 years ago, while luminescence techniques independently confirmed the timeline. Despite skepticism from some researchers, no natural geological process could explain the repetitive tool patterns, edge wear, or raw material selection found in these artifacts. And yet, for all the evidence of human activity, something was conspicuously absent: people. No bones, no teeth, no hair or fingernails, no direct human remains of any kind. DNA analysis of the surrounding soil yielded traces of rodents, bears, bats, and even kangaroo rats, but not a single strand of ancient human DNA. If people had been there, they had left without leaving themselves behind. This eerie silence only deepened the mystery. If these tools were made by humans, and all the evidence said they were, then who were the creators, and how did they remain so utterly invisible? The Silent People. The people of Chiquihuite Cave are unlike any other group known to have lived in the Americas. They left no bodies, no language, no artifacts beyond the stone tools scattered across the cave's floor. No genetic trace links them to modern Native American populations. In every way science can measure, they are a cultural dead end, an entire lineage seemingly lost to time. But if their legacy has vanished, their actions have not. The tools they left behind, spanning thousands of years, suggest that these early humans returned to the cave again and again, perhaps for seasonal shelter or ritual significance. Professor S.K. Villerslev of the University of Cambridge described the site as the America's oldest hotel, a temporary haven against the Ice Age's brutal extremes. The cave's elevation, 9,000 feet above sea level, and its treacherous access would have required exceptional effort to reach. During the last glacial maximum, when storms lashed the mountains with snow and ice, it would have been even more dangerous. Yet the people came repeatedly for reasons that likely went beyond mere survival. In many indigenous traditions, caves are not just shelters, they are sacred spaces, thresholds between worlds. Chiquihuite may have served a spiritual role, a place of gathering, initiation, or communion with forces greater than themselves. If so, then these forgotten humans were not just survivors. They were thinkers, makers, and believers. Their disappearance raises difficult questions. Did they die out due to harsh conditions, disease, or resource collapse? Were they displaced by later waves of migration? Or were they simply too few, their numbers unable to seed a lasting population? Whatever the reason, their presence lingers in stone, marking a chapter of human history, nearly erased, but not quite. Footprints in the sand. For years, critics of the Chiquihuite discovery argued that the tools might not be tools at all. Could falling rock or natural erosion have created shapes that only resembled human craftsmanship? Without skeletal remains or genetic evidence, doubts remained. But in 2021, a different kind of evidence emerged from the parched lakebeds of New Mexico. This time, not in stone, but in the earth itself. At White Sands National Park, scientists uncovered a series of human footprints preserved in ancient mud, now hardened into sediment. Dozens of prints, some made by teenagers, others by children, were spaced along a shoreline that once bordered a glacial lake. Radiocarbon dating of seeds trapped in layers above and below the footprints confirmed an astonishing age, between 21,000 and 23,000 years. These weren't abstract artifacts. They were physical impressions left by living people walking barefoot across wet ground during the Ice Age. Unlike stone tools, which can invite debate over origin, these footprints could not have been shaped by wind or water. They were irrefutable signs of sustained human presence, thousands of years before the traditional Clovis timeline. And critically, they offered the kind of corroboration Chiquihuite had long lacked, not as a copy of the same story, but as an echo of the same reality. Together, the footprints in white sands and the tools in Chiquihuite Cave paint a broader picture. These weren't isolated incidents or chance encounters. They suggest a continent peopled earlier than we imagined, by humans whose resilience, mobility, and mystery defy the frameworks we once considered unshakable. Thank you for joining us on this journey into one of the America's oldest mysteries. If this glimpse into a forgotten world intrigued you, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories from our ancient past. What do you think happened to these first explorers? Let us know in the comments, and until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.